Hi there, and welcome to AudioFlow. I'm Kasim, the founder of AudioFlow, and I'm really excited to show you everything that we can do on the platform and give you a high-level overview of some of the features, as well as how easy it is to create an AI coach or a podcast as well. When you log into AudioFlow for the first time, you'll see your own dashboard. You'll have a lot of new features on here as well, such as our new pro version of creating podcasts, as well as a variation of different tools, as well as the AI coaches that you can build and then deploy to your own kind of team, or whoever else that you might want to deploy a coach to. So it's really simple to use AudioFlow. All you need to do in order to create, say, a podcast, for example, is I'll use the Pro feature, which is the new feature on AudioFlow. All you need to do is just either copy and paste, or you can upload a document directly into the system. So all you do is that you upload your information. It then goes straight from the Documents tab into this key scripts piece. You then give it a title. So I'll just call this AudioFlow demo. And then you can go through each format on the system to kind of say what type of podcast you want it to be. So do you want it to be a solo presentation, such as I'm speaking to you right now? Do you want it to be an interview, a panel, or a story? So you can actually go to interview, which is most people's preference. You can then change the duration of the actual podcast. So depending on how much context is actually in the upload of the document, you can then upload that information, and it will try its best to get to the 10 minutes. If you want to extend that, depending on the amount of information you give it, it will try its best to get to the markers that you put. But for now, I will put this as 10 minutes. So you can change the tone. You can go very professional, you can go casual, urgent. So if you wanted something that's kind of a urgent podcast or urgent comms message, you can do that. Most people kind of stick to casual just to kind of leave it very informal. Now, there's loads of different options when it comes to the type, kind of tone of the podcast itself. So there is like this banter level, so you can have a couple of jokes in between the presenters. I'm going to put this on none for now, but you can add that in if you like. You can then go through each option in the optional extras and see if you want to change the pacing, for example. There are some what I'd say is natural imperfections, and that's why we've called it that, is because one thing we don't want is our podcast to sound too robotic and not very human-like. So when you kind of write in kind of AI tools, you can see that the kind of grammar and the way that people speak is very clean. So if we look at a human conversation, for example, we want there to be filler words. I say a lot. You want there to be verbal nods, potentially crossovers when people are talking to each other. So you can actually select if you want the filler words, verbal nods, for example, on and off. I'm going to put this crossover talkover piece on as well. And then you can then go through and just select the voices that you want. So you can call the first person, I'll just call it myself. So I'll call myself a host. You can go through and say which accent you want. So I'm going to go with British. I like some voices better than others. So I'm just going to use Ben for now, who's a calm British male. Then I'm going to add another speaker into the conversation as well. So I'll call this person Rachel for now. And she could be an expert. And then I always kind of float towards this voice, Fiona. And the more you kind of play around with the different voices, you'll have your preferences. And that's it. So I would just need to put a title, into here. So let me just put a title. So AudioFlow demo. And then it will start creating the podcast. So this takes a few minutes. So I'll be back when the podcast is created. Actually, whilst it's creating, what I'll do is I'll show you some of the other features. So when this podcast is creating, you have to leave it on the page, but there are other features on here. So you can go back and change and edit the script. So once it's created, you can go back and say, okay, I want to change the emotions in the scripting, I want it to sound more exciting, I might want to change some of the wording. So you can do all that when it kind of goes into the approval section. And after the approvals, you can make all the amendments you like, and then once you finalize it, it'll sit in your library. You can then generate quizzes off the back of the audio file. So what the AI will do is that it will actually take all the transcript from the podcast. It will then generate you a quiz. So you can select, I want 5 questions, 10 questions, and it will automatically create you a knowledge quiz to make sure that people are retaining the information. So you can, as well as sending out the actual podcast itself, you can then quiz people and say, okay, here's the podcast. And then you can quiz people off the back of the podcast to see if it's something that they actually retain that knowledge. So I'll go through some of the other features in a second, but you can see that this podcast has been created. So let's play it and see what happens.
So, Rachel, have you seen how AudioFlow is like changing the game in education with their AI platform?
Oh, definitely. I mean, turning textbooks into podcasts, that's huge for students today.
Right, especially since like 89% of Gen Z are listening to podcasts every week.
And the fact that 65% of people are auditory learners.
Exactly. It's like AudioFlow is meeting them right where they are.
And not just podcasts, they're custom AI coaches. That's a whole new level.
Yeah, those coaches can help with like everything from interview skills to financial literacy.
I mean, think about it. Students can prep for real interviews and enter them feeling ready.
Right.
So you can see that the tone of the actual podcast there. And say, for example, you go, okay, I actually want to change the actual tones of this podcast. All you need to do is select here, and then you can say, I want this to be more excited, for example. You can also change the tone during the actual sentences as well. So say, for example, I want to go, like, I'm just going to highlight this, for example, AudioFlow is changing the game. And I want that to be more exciting. So it'll be a curious conversation line. And then this one line here would be excited and then go back to curious. Then you just regenerate again at the top, and then you can keep going back and reiterating the podcast until you're happy with it. You can download it directly as an MP3, and you can save it so it stores all the files on the library as well as the approvals. Like I said before, you can go back and edit as well. So that's basically the podcast generation. You saw how fast it was to generate that podcast. It literally took us a few minutes. And you can keep generating different types of podcasts depending on the contents that you want to do. So other things you can do is that you can actually then add jingles to your podcast. So you can create your podcasts and you can add jingles to it. All you need to do is just kind of say what type of prompt that you want to do is create a jingle of, I don't know, you can say like a 90s theme pop, and I want it to be on AudioFlow. And then basically once that's generated, you can listen to the actual jingle, and then you can add that into your audio file. So all then you need to do then is go to, once you've got your jingle you're happy with, you can keep regenerating the jingles until you are. You can go, I want this AudioFlow jingle, add that onto here. I want this podcast here. And then I'm going to stitch them together just by pressing the buttons at the bottom. So you can just basically say download, and then what it'll do is I'll put the jingle at the start, it'll play the podcast, and if you do want another jingle to end with, you can just add the jingle again. So I'll go AudioFlow, add jingle, and then that could be the outro. So then you can just download it, and then you have the podcast with the jingles on there as well. So these are all features that you can do within the AudioFlow platform. Other features as well, that you can custom your own voices, so you can record your own voice, so then you can customize that into there. You can translate, so you can take an existing podcast as well. So any podcast that you've got existing, you can then upload a real conversation and you can translate it into up to 30 different languages. And this is the other key feature of AudioFlow, which is the AI podcasts, is the AI coaches. And with the coaches, you can create your own coaches, and then you can embed these into your own platforms or your e-learnings or your websites, wherever you kind of host your learning content, and you want your coaches to sit. But predominantly what these coaches are one-to-one voice coaches that you can build on the platform, and you can have them one-to-one conversations directly with the coaches. So say, for example, on here, for a sales coach, for example, you can just put in a name, and then you can deal with the actual call. So I'll give you an example of what this looks like.
Hi there. I'm playing the role of angry customer. Let's begin. Go ahead and start the conversation.
So I understand your frustrations, and what is it that you're currently angry with at the moment?
I'm angry because your product keeps failing 3 times in 2 weeks. That's unacceptable for what I paid.
Yeah, I understand your frustrations, and what I'll do is I can offer you a refund, or I can replace the product.
A refund? Fine. But I need confirmation in writing within 24 hours, not just some vague promise. And I want to know how you're going to prevent this from happening to other customers.
So these AI coaches are basically built in different scenarios. So you can change the voices in there. You can make it an English, British voice. You can make it American voice. You can look at the scenario. You can change the scenarios. You can basically build a coach on anything. So if you want an expert in like leadership, for example, and you want to coach people on how to become a leader, you can basically build that. And everything is kind of easy enough for you to kind of customize yourself. So you can go through the template builders to build your prompts, and then you can also reiterate the prompts within the actual coach itself. And it's really easy to build a coach. So say, for example, I want one to be on leadership coach, for example. You can then say, okay, so who's the role? So I want it to be a mentor. I want the person to have 15 years experience as being a leader. And I want there to be kind of personality type. So you can say I want that person to be very supportive or questionable. So questioning, and then you can have different kind of prompts around that. So I'm going to say questioning, and then you can have the tone as casual, for example. You can say what types of focus that you want them to do. So active listening, objection handling, negotiation, for example, and then you can kind of go through all these kind of selection parts. You can then go to safety as well and see if there's any safeguarding rules that we need to apply, age appropriate as well, and there's some advanced settings. So you can kind of go through each step by step in order to create your coach, and you can even give it kind of the backgrounds around its qualifications, its background, its history, and then basically what you'll get is that they'll get this full prompt. And then if you want to add any additional pieces manually, you can just literally just go through it and then just add manual prompts into here as well. And the way that these work is that you kind of test this out, you kind of speak to it, you reiterate, you go back and kind of make sure that you're happy with the actual coach and it's saying what you're wanting it to say, and then you can tell it not to say certain aspects as well, and then you can build your coach and then you can deploy it. So really cool tool within AudioFlow where you can have these one-to-one conversations and embed it into your own system. So thanks for getting onto the AudioFlow page, and if you've got any questions you can reach out to us directly, but we'd love to hear your feedback on the product and hopefully see you soon. Thank you.